morning. Looks like we got a great crew here for our vegetable gardening seminar. Just a quick introduction. My name's Dan. I've been in the lawn and garden business for over 35 years. Vegetable gardening is not an exact science. Learning new stuff every day. So you're going to hear a lot of different things from a lot of different people. Doesn't make anybody wrong, okay? You ask 20 different questions to 20 different, or the same question to 20 different people, you're going to get 20 different answers usually. So doesn't mean any of them are wrong, it's just a lot of people will do things different ways. Northern friends, can I see a show of hands who's from up north? Quite a few. It's really weird to be doing a vegetable gardening seminar in October, right? This is where you're going to have your best garden. I don't know if any of you tried growing vegetables through the summertime. It's very hard. Bugs, fungus, and the temperatures do not bode well for vegetable gardening here in Florida in the summer. Usually in June, I will take my garden, cover it with black plastic, and let it solarize all summer long, and wait till about the middle of the end of September, pop the covers off, and start planting here in October, end of September. You're going to get a really good garden coming into the fall. The temperatures are just a whole lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? Better for gardening, better for us working in the garden as well, because it's not always fun to work out in the heat of it. So we'll do run through this, and then we'll probably do a whole lot of question and answer afterwards, because I know a lot of you will have questions that won't be answered in this here. So starting off, there's just step-by-step gardening through. Sorry, I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see as well. First off, you got to have a site. This right here is not a good place for a vegetable garden. It just would not work well because of the shade. You want at least 6 hours of full sun or more. More is fine, but in the summertime, if you're growing a summer garden, a lot of times if you can get afternoon shade on your vegetables, you will extend your season a little bit longer. Just because that Florida hot afternoon sun, I don't like it, and neither do the vegetable plants. Of course, first you got to pick a place to put everything, and then the next thing is prepping the soil. If you don't start out with a good foundation of soil, you're going to have trouble. Florida is very sandy, which is fine, but there's products like across the front here, you'll see mushroom compost, organic peat, just rich soils to mix in with your sand to make it where plants can grow, gives it nutrient, helps hold moisture, things like that. You can grow in plain sand, but it's going to be a lot more work trying to get a hold of that. A lot of people will do raised beds. Raised beds are actually really good because you can control your water a little bit better. And pots. I do a lot of pot gardening at my house on the back patio, and just grow a lot of plants in pots because I don't have as much room, which is good for condos and courtyards and things like that. So you can do a little bit with tomatoes and peppers and some small things in pots around. So you got to have good soil. When using pots, you're going to want to use a potting mix that's ready to use, something ready to go. If the soil stays too heavy or moist, you can always add water. You can't, you can't always take water away, but you can always add. So you always want to err to the side of my soil staying a little on the drier side. That's what you're going to need to do with that. Irrigation and drainage. You'll see on here that's going to be what I was just talking about. You're going to have good drainage. Plants getting their roots wet and staying wet all the time. It's not good for those. Pest management. Luckily, we're in a day and age where organic chemicals are a lot better than they used to be. 35 years ago when I started here, we had insecticidal soap. That was it. That was our organic back then. They've come up with some great products that, I hate to say it, now they actually work. There was a time where they were coming up with organics and, whether it was Mom's Ivory soap or whatever it was, it just wasn't working as well. So there's a great line of organic chemicals that now you can grow your plants organically and do it well. I just use these two all the time as a preventative. Now, they're both bacterias, so they're bacilluses. One takes care of funguses, One takes care of caterpillars, not all insects, but just caterpillars, which for me is about 80% of the problems in my garden. So if you mix these two together in a sprayer and spray your plants once a week, usually covers any issues you may have with insects and fungus. Now there will be things that pop up along the way. Easiest way is if you can, or ever have trouble, clip off a piece, take a picture with our iPhones that we have now, bring it in, we can help you identify it. Sometimes the white sticky stuff on the back of a leaf is not a fungus, it's an insect, or vice versa. So these two here, yeah, one is garden-friendly fungicide. It is Bacillus, I'm not even going to try that, strain, but it's a bacteria or a bacillus strain. This is Bacillus thuringiensis. The way this one actually works is you spray it on your plant. It'll stay on your plant for up to a week to 2 weeks, depending on rain. The bacteria gets sprayed on the plant. A caterpillar or a worm comes along. They eat part of the leaf. They ingest the leaf. They ingest the bacteria. Instantaneously, the bacteria starts eating away the digestive system of the caterpillar, and then the caterpillar will quit eating instantaneously and take about 3 or 4 days to die off the plant. So they'll still be on there, but they will not be doing any damage. Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. All organic. Of course, as everything, always rinse off your vegetables and wipe them down. But yeah, all of these products that are OMRI listed, they'll say on there to wash them off. All the organics are going to have cautionary things because they don't want somebody to walk along and spray it in their eye because it's going to cause them to have eye irritation or something. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Correct, yes. Yeah, when using this, you're killing the caterpillar. If you don't want to kill, then don't put it on there. Exactly. Yeah. um, you can, alternate would be hand picking them and squishing them, or not squishing them because you don't want to kill them. Understood. So you're looking for like butterfly gardening and stuff like that and saving those guys? Sure, sure, sure. And a lot of the caterpillars you get on most of your plants are an undesirable moth and things like that. It's not a butterfly. Um, your parsley, your dill, those are going to get the swallowtails and stuff like that. So, correct, correct. That's the swallowtails. Right, right. Yes, yes, yes. A lot of times it will, but usually it's the little boring worms that get into your cucumbers and just ruin your cucumber. That's more what you're going after. But yeah, if you're growing dill or fennel or parsley or some of your other edibles for host plants for butterflies, or you want to share with them, by all means you can. Just you don't want to, of course, spray it. You can spray, you can keep it in a separate spot, you can quarantine it, especially if you're growing it in a pot, you can move it to a different area. But there again, if they're feeding on uh, parsley and there's a thyme plant next to it, they're not going to go onto the thyme and eat it. They don't like it. So, thank you. Best time to spray everything and anything is just before dark. A lot of these, like this one here, is made up of oils like fish oil and other things. The neem oil, of course, I think, yeah, neem is made from the neem seed. It's an oil that's extracted from that. The oils, if you spray them on in the heat of the day, and they're on the leaves, and then the sun hits them, it's just like a cooking oil. So it would actually burn the leaves, cause leaf drop. So your best time to spray is at night or just before dark is the best time to do it. And when you spray, you want to hit the tops of the leaves, but you also want to try and spray up and hit from the bottoms of the leaves because a lot of your insects are going to get up underneath. White flies and a lot of your aphids you'll be able to see right on top, but white flies and a lot of your other insects get up underneath. Another thing that you can have issues with is snail and slugs. And a lot of times they're hard to see because they come out at night. So I hate to say this, but there's one quick way you can always test for snails and slugs, but it ruins a whole can of beer. Or at least a half a can. But you sink a pie plate in the ground somewhere in the area where you're having issues, and you pour in, don't give them the whole can, give them half, save half for yourself. And the next morning, it'll be full of snails and slugs, okay? There's two different types of snail and slug baits. There's metaldehyde, which is a highly poisonous, works great, kills them, but it also attracts dogs and cats and will kill pets. So we don't want anybody who has pets to ever use the metaldehyde. And this one here is all organic. It's iron phosphate and spinosad. The iron phosphate's the actual slug and snail killer. They feed on it and dry up and die. And then the spinosad will also take care of other bugs like ants and pill bugs and things like that. That's pretty much pest management, fungus management. And there's, like I say, always bring in a piece, help us, let us identify it for you and do things. Yes, sir. To use neem oil on tomatoes. I don't like to use any oil-based products on fuzzy leafed vegetables. So tomatoes kind of have a fuzzy leaf. I usually see more burn on it with that. It will say it on the labels, but we usually don't recommend oil-based products for cucumbers, squashes, anything that has fuzzy leaves. Peppers that have nice smooth leaves, fine, but usually not on the fuzzy leaf plants. Yes, ma'am. White flies, I would use neem, or I didn't bring one out, or did I bring one out? A triple action is another one. Neem is good. It's the neem oil. Triple action also has pyrethrins in it. So it's also got, the neem works by smothering. The oil coats the insect and smothers it, and it can't respirate and it dies. The pyrethrin is also a contact kill. Pyrethrin is made from the extract of a mum flower. So it's a good contact kill, so it'll knock down the adults right away. And the larva, which is on the back side of the leaf, usually the oil does the coating on that. There again, that's why you always want to try and hit the bottom sides of the leaves. And another good reason for spraying at night is because white flies are out foraging during the day. They'll always be back on the plant at night. The actual adult white fly does not do much damage to the plant. It's the larva that's actually sucking the juices out. So you're trying to break the life cycle. Once you keep them from laying eggs on the plant, then there will be no more. Yes, ma'am. Fire ants. No good organic way for fire ants. Fire ant mounds, the best thing is surrender acephate. It's a powdered acephate. You apply it to the top of the mound. The ants crawl out of the mound, walk through it, bring it back into the mound. They're gone. The next morning, you will not see a live ant. Then I'll usually go out there with my garden hose and wash that mound down into the ground. If you don't, another colony moving along could come along and find a pre-built condominium and then move right in. It doesn't really move the ants either. It kills them outright. A lot of stuff, you'll throw bait on it, and then 4 feet over, they pop another nest. This stuff here just knocks them good. Yes. It's called surrender acephate, or just fire ant killer, it says on there, but the active ingredient is acephate. Keep them up off the ground. That's a good idea. So what she was saying is she has a lot of her plants in pots, and the fire ants will go up through the drain holes. So she's actually raised them up with little blocks of wood, or you can use pot feet to keep them up off the ground, help keep the ants out of there. Yes, ma'am. It is to a point. Has it been effective for me? No. I've tried it, but a lot of people do swear by marigolds, and there's other things. And that's why I say it's not wrong. You're going to hear a bunch of different things. Google, what a great thing. But you got to check 4 or 5 different sites. Don't always go by the first site that you find on Google because it's not always correct. So you want to get a good, yeah, cross-reference above everything. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Scale's another one where the oils work really well. The neem oil, or the other, it's just a good smotherer. That usually is very effective. The oil, the triple action, or just the neem oil by itself. Sorry, I'm kind of skipping around, but I'm trying to do it in order. Yes, sir. Yep. Correct. Yeah, usually on all the insecticides, we recommend repeat applications at a week to 10 days, depending on rainfall and stuff like that. If it's been real dry, usually 10 days you can get by with. If it got kind of rainy and you were worried about it wash some off, you'd want to do it at the 7-day intervals, and usually 7 to 10 day intervals. That long between, yeah, because usually you'll have some residual on it, and you've killed the adults. You wait for the pupas to get to adult stage and knock them out, and hopefully catch them before they lay their eggs. But you also do that for, we recommend 3 to 4 weeks or until you don't see them anymore. So you'll do that repeat application until they're gone. Yes, ma'am. Little black widow spiders. They do get around. Usually they're not a huge problem. I'm sorry. Yeah, I've had them get into pots, and they'll. But any insecticide will work well. That's good for spiders. There again, just the old squish. The back of the sandal usually works pretty good on those. Right. Well, then you would take, and I hate to say it, it's probably just a regular can of Raid and other spider spray, and just spot apply it right to it. Kills them almost instantaneously. So, this is the Surrender Acephate, the fire ant killer. It's a white powder. Usually I'll pop the top of this off, take a small Phillips screwdriver, and poke a bunch of holes in it. Then I just made a shaker can out of it. And then you just shake it over the mound till you get a little layer of dust on it. Instantaneously, you see the fire ants come running out. Then they all go back in, they spread it around or whatever, and then they're all gone the next morning. So, thank you, Paul. Yes, ma'am. Very good, very good. Boiling hot. And I've also heard spinosad works on fire ants. But a spinosad granular, which is in this here. But it does not list fire ants. It lists every other ant on here that you can think of. Some I never even heard of before. Not fire ant, but they don't want to be responsible for it not getting rid of your fire ants. Fire ants are very hard to get rid of. I don't think they want to get rid of fire ants completely. There's too much money to be made for getting rid of fire ants. So, yes, ma'am. Sugar ants, there again, any of your, this one here will work on sugar ants, ghost ants, and that kind of stuff. That's the spinosad in granular form. There's a lot, I only brought out a lot of our organic chemicals. Some of the fungicides I brought out are more of the chemical type, but they're also granular insecticides like bifenthrin and imidacloprid that you can sprinkle down for good ant control. And here again, the chemicals that are in the stores now, even though if they're not organic, they're a whole lot safer than 35 years ago. We don't have our Dursbans and diazonons and chloridanes and all that stuff that worked really, really well. Who knows what it did to us, but it worked really good, got rid of all the insects back in the day. Those are gone, and they ripped them all off the market in 3 months. I mean, they had to come off, and they were gone. And all these chemical companies, Bayer, Syngenta, they were trying to come up with good alternatives. And in the beginning, they were horrible. I mean, they just did not work at all, because there were certain regulations that the government was putting on. They got to be safer and things like that. And over the years, they've perfected some, and they are a whole lot safer in chemicals than they used to be over all the years ago that they were. So I know they're all chemicals still, but they're a lot safer than the chemicals of old, the DDTs and the chloridanes and that kind of stuff. I know imidaclopirid's gotten a little bit of a bad name. It's because people use it wrong. Always read the directions on the label, okay? That's the biggest thing. And more is not always better. So people always like, I got to add extra. That'll do even a better job. It does not. You want to use it per the directions on the label, then it's a lot safer. Imidacloprid, a few years back, they hit a big bee kill from imidacloprid. Well, they were up in Washington, and they sprayed the trees that were in full bloom all over the bees, okay? The imidacloprid, we use it here, is used in a drench form. So you're pouring it on the ground, and it's drawn up into the plant. So it's not getting on the bees and not being a contact kill. So if you use it correctly, it's a whole lot better. I'm going to carry on past pesticides and go to fertilizers. And we can come back to any questions along the way. Fertilizing is huge. Organic fertilizer. There's organic fertilizer, there's synthetic fertilizer. I don't have a bag of 10-10-10 out here, but I do have this. It's a 3-4-4. All your organic fertilizer are always minuscule in their numbers. I mean, you wonder why. It's like, because a 10-10-10 only 20 to 30% of a synthetic fertilizer can get used by the plant. It cannot use all 10, 10, 10. So it's really a 2, 2, 2 or a 3, 3, 3. So you're really getting more out of a 3, 4, 4 because this is 100% usable by the plant all the way through. Nice thing about a lot of these, you would like to get a mycorrhizae. Mycorrhizae is a I don't know if it's a bacteria or something like that. It grows in the soil around the roots, and it actually helps the roots be able to draw in nutrient better. So anytime you spread mycorrhizae around, you can use mycorrhizae by itself. All the Espoma products have mycorrhizae in the product. So, and I'll usually, before my garden, I'll put this out and fertilize my garden a week before I even plant it. You can use it right with planting. You can put it around seeds right after you plant them. I usually try to mix it in a week ahead of time to get the mycorrhizae going in flourishing in the soil ahead of time. So that's pretty much it. And I like to feed half the dilution on the bag and twice as often. You know, I don't have a problem getting fed. I eat really well, as you can see. But plants, and we always say 4 times a year. You know, well, that's great, but they get fed heavy. By the end of 6 weeks, they're hungry, and then they're hungry for 6 weeks, and then we give them a good feeding again. So if you can feed them once a month, once every 6 weeks with half the amount required, they're getting a steadier, more constant feed along the way, and it's better for the plant. Lime, usually our soil down here, you don't have to add much lime. Lime is for acidic soils, things that cause acid in the soil. These oak leaves are very acidic. Pine needles are very acidic. You mix your soils in, your peat mosses are acidic, and your vegetables actually require some acidity between usually 5.8 and 6.5, where dead neutral is 7. They like to be a little on the acidic side to grow. A lot of times people will use lime with tomatoes and peppers because there's some calcium base in the lime. And calcium, I don't know if you've ever had blossom end rot, but that's your pepper or tomato on the opposite end where the blossom came out. It starts to rot before the fruit gets ready. That's where the lime comes into play. A lot of it has to do with your preparation again. Because once it's already got it, it's very hard to get rid of. They have sprays and other things you can use. But usually if you're getting blossom end rot, you're going to get it on probably 30 to 60% of your fruit. So you're going to lose some of it throughout the season, but not all of it. Yes, ma'am. Very good. So she takes her eggshells and crunches them up, mixes into her soils, because that's another good form of calcium, which will help with the blossom end rot for the plants. A lot of people will make their own compost. And composting just your regular kitchen scraps and things like that. That'll make a really rich soil. I have some worm castings out here. You can use worm castings as it is. Then some people also make a tea out of it and just kind of pour water through it, release it, and they'll use that water to water their plants and just add nutrients. And there again, it's kind of an in-between. You would use this all the time. You could water with the worm casting tea in between just to kind of give it that constant feed that's going all the time. Then the rest of this kind of all gets into the time of year and the plants you can use at certain times. And there's also some insect charts in here, which are very helpful and handy to keep on. But of course, there's summer gardening, winter gardening. Right now, you can grow anything and everything. I mean, this is the good time of year. Come summertime, there's a lot of things that won't grow. You know, so you're going to be your cool weather vegetables, all your lettuces, your greens. Those are the kind of things that you really can only grow now. Because summertime, they go straight to seed, they bolt up, and they're very bitter. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, none of them grow in the shade. All your plants are going to want 6 hours of sun or more. Sometimes in the summertime, you can go down to 4 hours because that hot afternoon sun. Um, Understood. Understood. It'll do fine, but I think as you get further into winter, you're going to see it stretching and becoming more because we got the sun is moving away from the earth as we go, so you're getting less and less intense sun, and by December 21st, I think it's at its furthest point, and we have our shortest day, and then it gets closer and our days get longer. So yeah, and the sun gets more intense. That's why I say, like in the summertime, you can take plants that you've had in the sun, and if you can move them to where they get afternoon shade, it extends your season a little bit longer.